Hello, this is Dread from Last Epic Builds, and today's video topic, it is about a recent Vision tournament winner. If you do not know what the Vision tournaments are, it is a tournament that is held by Vision GL himself on his Twitch stream. He runs a SSF race tourney every weekend from Friday to Tuesday, and pretty much the idea is you start SSF on Friday, and you see how far you can get on Tuesday, and the person who is the farthest in the arena by that day is the person who wins. And this build guide is of Rowdy's static orb, lightning blast, volcanic orb build that he played for the tourney. He made it to rank 1. Now, there was someone that did push farther. Tunk did push farther in this race, but sadly, due to daylight savings time, he was about a few minutes late, so Rowdy ended up winning, which is kind of funny. But the reason why I'm actually covering this build is not because it won the tourney, which is amazing, by the way, but because it's a very interesting concept. So the idea is he's trying to stun as much as possible. If you guys did not know, the last few patches, the resistance changes have changed, but the calculation to stun has not been changed. So it leads to stun kind of being very imbalanced per se. So if you just stack a little bit of stun chance and some shock effect, shock chance, you can end up stunning almost everything all the time, and allows him to CC everything all the way up to like wave 300. It's absolutely insane. He can perma CC bosses. There's just so much you can do with this build. It's absolutely insane because everything gets stunned. It's ridiculous. So the Vision tourney was supposed to be using Volcanic Orb, and normally Volcanic Orb is usually a bad skill. It doesn't do enough damage to make it worth its weight. But for this tourney, he was utilizing it to stun. Now, there's a lot of stun chance inside Volcanic Orb's tree, like the projectile stun chance for the shards, and that allows him to stun lock most bosses, and it's absolutely disgusting. So, other than that, he's also utilizing Lightning Blast at 0 mana, and what this does is it allows him to run as much mana-hungry skills as possible. So, for instance, his Static Orb and his Volcanic Orb consume a lot of mana, but since his Lightning Blast will always be at 0 mana no matter what, if he goes to negative mana, he does not have to care about being defenseless when out of 0 mana, so he doesn't have to run Focus. So if you really, really don't like Focus, this is the build for you, because this gets around utilizing Focus or Mana Strike, because you're always at least attacking with Lightning Blast, and most of the time you only need Static Orb for bosses anyways. So he's also utilizing 4 cast speed with Lightning Aegis Idols, so because since his Lightning Blast is 0 mana, he can pump up his cast speed as much as possible, and he doesn't have to worry about running out of mana. So he can just go as much cast speed as possible, so you can get as many stuns as possible, because if you didn't know, stun is a chance, and the more times you hit a target, the more chances you have to stun, so the more uptime on stun you have. And like I said, this is a little bit of a bug with the system due to the fact that we changed from resistances without changing the stun mechanic. We've been telling the devs about this for a while now. They haven't been listening, so I guess this is just the perfect build to showcase why stun is broken right now, I guess, you know? So with that being said, let's get into the skill. Here we are with the skills here. For the first one, we have Lightning Blast. So he has 3 points into Storm Razor for the base critical strike chance, so your Lightning Blast always crits. 1 point into Lightning Attunement, so while he's clearing, he gets Lightning Aegis every so often and increases his cast speed by 80% thanks to his idle setup. 4 points into Overcharge, and then 1 point into Hypercharge. The reason why he's stacking into this is because once you have cast speed, like a lot of cast speed, these proc a lot of the time. So for instance, double cast chance procs a quarter of the time. So the more casts you get, the more chances you get to proc that double cast. And allows him to have a lot of burst potential. Then he takes 5 points into front loaded for a lot of single target damage, 3 points into arcing power for additional chains, 2 points into crackling speed for cast speed travel, and then 3 points into shatter shock, so he gets the 120% more here. Now, he does have the +2 to lightning blast level. What I would suggest doing is I would suggest taking 1 point out of Storm Razor and then 1 point out of front loaded or arcing power until you get that +2 lightning blast. But I would heavily suggest getting the +2 to lightning blast so that this feels even stronger. Now, for his Flame Ward, he is going with a different setup for Flame Ward. He takes 2 points into Stalwart Defense, 1 point into Desperate Defense, 2 points into Fuel the Flames, 1 point into Dual Aegis for the extra Flame Ward charge, the normal setup, 5 points into Barrier for less hit damage as well, then 3 points into Dilation for more duration, 5 points into Infusion, and then 1 point into Lightning Ward. So this is the other way you play Flame Ward, is for a lot of increased damage. This gives you 250% increased lightning damage thanks to the Lightning Ward. Absolutely amazing. And then for Volcanic Orb here, he has it built as a stun setup, so he takes 2 points into Monolithic Eruption, 5 points into Lava Flow for the mana efficiency, so you can spam more static orbs, 1 point into Piercing Embers, 3 points into Volatile Emission Travel, 5 points into Ash Pelting. This is the stun chance I was talking about earlier, which allows him to stun bosses ridiculously hard. Then 4 points into Dense Orb for even more projectiles to clear the screen, or to stun the whole screen. And that's pretty much all he uses it for, is to stun lock bosses. You could run Black Hole in this spot. You could run a lot of different skills in this spot. But from what I heard from him, he really liked Volcanic Orb in performance with the stun mechanic. So I'm going to take his word for it. Now for Teleport, takes 2 points travel into Crystalline Passage, 2 points into Time Dilation for more stat buff duration, for his 5 points into Elemental Affinity, and for his ward retention as well. This actually affects his ward retention as well, by the way, the stat buff duration, so he gets ward retention longer. Now, then 4 points into Ether Barrier, 1 point into Out of Mind, and then 3 points into Out of Body. The main reason he's doing this setup is because since he's HP stacking, this 9% ward health gained as ward, it's a lot of stacking ward very quickly. So if you're spamming Teleport, you actually have a decent chunk of ward on you for even more HP. So if you're stacking HP, obviously this is the best way to go. Then for Static Orb, this is the most amazing part of this build, because since his Lightning Blast is 0 mana, he doesn't have to care whatever he does with Static Orb. He just spams as many as possible. So 2 points into Lightning Aegis. Like I said, his idols are cast speed while you have Lightning Aegis, so having a way of getting 100% uptime on it during boss fights, absolutely amazing, because that's all a single target. So this is an amazing node. 1 point travel into Shocking Orb, 3 points into Static Bolts, 1 point into Relinquish, and then he can get to 7 points into Twin Orbs, which is very important. So every single time he has Static Orb, he gets 2 casts of Static Orb. This is very important for later, because 1 point into Controlled Explosion, so Static Orb explodes where his cursor is, so he can point it at a boss and put a bunch of charged grounds under it. Now these make a bunch of Static Orbs under the boss. If he stacks like 6 or 8 or however many Static Orbs until he runs out of mana on a boss, this will last a long time, and it will keep stunning the boss, because like I said, the more times you hit, the more chances you have to stun the boss, which means more uptime of CC on the boss. So he can stun lock most bosses. And then 4 points into Mana Ground as well for the mana efficiency, so he can spam out more orbs. And that's pretty much it for the skills. Alright, here we have the passives. He takes 8 points into Scholar, because he's HP stacking, 2 points into Arcanist for travel, 5 points into Mage Fury for cast speed, 10 points into Knowledge of Destruction for critical strike chance and critical multi. For Spellblade, he takes 6 points into Elemental Affinity. Very efficient node. Very strong, efficient node for res capping. 8 points into Calculated Destruction. 5 points into Arcane Momentum for cast speed. 9 points into Wisdom because he's trying to get his mana to 200, so he gets benefits from Archmage. 1 point travel into Sarunamancer, 5 points into Rift Bolts for Lightning Pen and Lightning Leech. Very strong, so he gets a lot of leech. Since he has a lot of life, he needs a lot of leech. 7 points right now into Crackling Precision. It doubles lightning skills, very strong for his Static Orb and Lightning Blast. 5 points into Arcane Obliteration for the crit multi. 8 points into the Vitality and the Shock duration. So the more duration you have with your shocks, the more shocks you can apply to the target. Very strong. 2 points into Arcane Insight for pretty much 20% increased ward retention and damage. 5 points into Spellslinger for cast speed and adaptive spell damage. 8 points into LE Res and increased elemental damage and increased stun chance with elemental spells. As you can tell, he's stacking a lot of stun chance. Very important for stacking stuns on bosses. Then 5 points into Arcane Current for increased stun duration with lightning spells. Absolutely insane node for this build. Increased shock effect as well, which makes it so that things get stunned quicker because shock reduces the resistance to stuns, which is absolutely amazing for this build. This is S tier node for this build, makes it so that you can almost stun lock bosses. 5 points into Archmage for 15 flat, and then 4 points into Recollection for the cooldown recovery speed. And that's pretty much it for the skill tree this time. That's pretty much for the passive tree as well. Now for the gearing here. Now to remember, this was during a 4-day event race, so his gear is a little scuffed. Could be a little bit better, but obviously, like I said, he did really well considering it was only 4 days. So let's get into it here. So he has the large arcane idols, which give him cast speed while you have lightning ages. This is absolutely amazing for him, because if at max rolls, this gives almost 80% increased cast speed while you have lightning ages. It's absolutely amazing since his lightning blast is at 0 mana. You can spam it as much as possible, and then of course he can spam static orb as fast as possible as well. Puke out his mana to puke it on bosses, and it allows you to have a lot of burst single target, and you can just watch bosses melt. Absolutely amazing. Then for his top idols, he went for res and stun chance. Very interesting choice. I understand why he did it, because he wanted as much stun chance as possible, so I agree with this. And then for his helmet, he has vitality, lightning blast level, health, and res, and as much health as possible. Crit chance, crit multi, cast speed, health, and res. For his weapon, cast speed, spell damage, shock, and slow. You want the slow so that things don't get to you. So that since you already have chill from your blessing, you want to have the slow as well so that things don't get close to you. Then for the chest, he has vitality, spell critical strike chance. He's trying to get to 300 crit, so he doubles this. 60 health, as well as the increased health as well. We want as much health as possible because he's health stacking for his defenses. Then for his offhand, he has res, spell damage and critical strike chance, and base critical strike chance. For his weapon, for his gloves, he has cast speed, crit chance, and then you want leech because he already has 1.5% leech on the tree, so this will give him 2.7% leech. Then for his boots here, he has life, leech, life, and res. For his relic, crit multi, cast speed, life, and res as well. Like I said, his gear is really scuffed right now, as you can tell. So it's like you could get way better than this if you spent a little bit longer. Said he was under the pressure of a 4-day tourney, so he had to pull in results. And that's pretty much it for the gear.
funny things in lines, tigers, bears, oh my ride. We fierce and fast, supersonic like JJ Fatten. Be watching the wheels fly, can't be out with a baseball bat. Stop my time, this is a sight. No, you know, stuff to folks say, picking outside your heart side. But I'm stuck, but I got some face, so just go before I want some fire. That's why ladies choose me. All up in the mood, cause we so cute. That's why we so huge. Magical girls know how I beat it. Daily snack, keep the react. Not a China man, cause I ain't from China, man.